Hey, so there's a quote that I love by one of my favorite authors and teachers, Anthony DeMello, that puzzled me for a long time, and I finally figured out why. In his seminal book, Awareness, he says, loneliness is not cured by human company, loneliness is cured by contact with reality. And I remember reading that for the first time and going, wow, that feels so true, but why? 15 years later, and after a bunch of emotional repression work, I can confidently answer that question. In two parts. Part one, you're not actually lonely, you're emotionally repressed. Part two, emotional repression is what keeps us from making contact with reality. Have you ever heard someone say, I feel alone even in a crowded room? When we bury and repress our emotions in childhood, what we're really doing is burying ourselves inside of us, yeah? We're hiding half of who we are. We're cutting ourselves off from all other human beings. Thus, we start to feel alone, lonely, or disconnected, right? Even when other people are around. And the irony is, the reason we do all this in the first place is to get our unmet needs met in childhood, right? So I have to bury my anger and be good so people will love me or so I'm safe. Or I have to bury my vulnerable emotions like hurt, sadness, and grief and be strong so people love me and keep me safe. It sounds sort of silly saying it, but that's what the innocent strategy ends up being, right? I have to repress my feelings and be lonely so I'm not lonely. Which is why DeMello says the cure for loneliness is not human company. How could it be when it's created by the buried and repressed emotions that you won't let anybody see, including yourself? Most people don't and won't know that they're even in emotional repression in the first place because we get so good at hiding that we start hiding from ourselves. So what is loneliness cured by? DeMello says contact with reality. But what's that? Some people might say it's the recognition of presence or the realization that you are unconditioned awareness. Some people might say it's conscious contact with God or a higher power. But most people will cling on to beliefs like this in the same way that they clung on to the belief that they're lonely, right? And for the same reason, to keep themselves in emotional repression in hopes of getting their needs met. So what the hell do you do then? How do you make contact with reality? Well, think of it this way. The reality is, and always has been, that you have buried and repressed emotions in your body, creating your entire experience of life and driving your suffering. So in order to make contact with reality, you have to make contact with those buried and repressed emotions. AKA, you have to be able to acknowledge them, access them, feel them, and express them. And you're in luck because up until recently, there weren't many, if any, modalities that made this practical or even possible. Most that I know of stop short of repressed emotions and unintentionally encourage bypassing. But in KI, or the Killer Bee Inquiries, we do not do that because the whole aim of our work is to utilize bypassing in order to get freer and freer of suffering and emotional repression. Translation, our job is to support you in making contact with reality. If you'd like to learn how to do this, then tap the link in the caption of the bio.